What's up, everyone? Today we are talking about my surprise whiskeys for 2023. So it's pretty simple. These are whiskeys that I either discovered or tried for the first time this year in 2023, or whiskeys that I completely underestimated. And best thing about these whiskeys is that a good amount of these are still available and are under $100. So stay tuned. What are they? Welcome back. It's the Mash and Drum. What's up, folks? I'm Jason C. from the Mash and Drum, and welcome back to the show. Like, subscribe, help grow the channel for 2023. This year has had its share of surprises, also its share of price increases, but there were a bunch of great whiskeys I had this year that not only were delicious, but affordable and more available. Kind of getting away from all the crazy allocated whiskeys, it's good to just talk about some new stuff that's hit the market that's a little bit more readily available for the most part. Now, before we dive into the list, let's hear from today's sponsor, Original Grain, who has an amazing offer for you guys just in time for the holidays. Well, the holidays are upon us, and what better gift to give a loved one than Original Grain. Original Grain makes watches, sunglasses, rings, and more inlaid with whiskey barrel wood that inspires connection, creates conversation, and can commemorate milestones. Founded in 2013 when brothers Ryan and Andrew were inspired to create a watch that simply didn't exist. Influenced by their roots growing up in the Pacific Northwest, the mission was to create unique timepieces that seamlessly integrate natural wood and stainless steel. So since 2013, Original Grain has created watches with whiskey barrels, beer barrels, Taylor guitars, railroad ties, and even military surplus crates. With their booming popularity, they've also made some watches that include exclusive partnerships with Stone Brewing Company, Indian Motorcycles, Toyota Racing, and yes, even Buffalo Trace. On top of that, they have just released their rugged automatic watches featuring automatic movement with a skeleton dial so you could see the inner components of each and every watch. It's pretty cool looking. With all these great watches featuring exquisite craftsmanship, this will be the gift that your loved one will remember. Take it from me, I gifted a military surplus watch to my Uncle Tony, and believe me, he isn't impressed by much. He served in Vietnam, and I gifted him one of the watches featuring military ammo crate wood, and he loved it. And every time I see him, he is wearing it, and he's also talking to folks about it. So, pretty impactful gift. Each detail of the watch is carefully crafted and really allows the unique materials to shine through. Something else really cool that Original Grain does is for every watch they sell, they plant a tree. The latest count, over 500,000 trees planted. They are also a veteran and family-owned company. They offer free shipping, a great warranty, and amazing customer service. Plus, they also dedicate themselves to helping many veteran organizations. So, a great company to back. Okay, here's your special offer just in time for the holidays. So Original Grain has their holiday sale going on right now. They are running up to 30% off site-wide, and using my code MASH will get you an extra 10% off. This is the highest discount you will find. That means you could get up to 40% off on select styles. So click the link below in the description, head to Original Grain and use the code MASH at checkout and grab one of these exclusive watches today. It will be an absolutely phenomenal gift. Thanks to Original Grain, and thanks for making the sponsors happen. 6 years after their first whiskey was distilled, Barton Bourbon Company released its first estate distilled collection of whiskeys in early 2023. The Origin series introduced us to Barton Bourbon Company's core product line through 3 6-year-old whiskeys: the Origin Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, the Origin Bottled and Bond Whiskey, which is a wheated bourbon, and Origin Kentucky Straight Rye Whiskey. All distilled, aged, and bottled at Barton Bourbon Company, with the 2 bourbons being about $50 and the rye coming in at around $70. Now, the reason why I put them on the list is because we were so used to the Fusion series, Discovery series, their collaborations, but this Origin series I think is an absolute home run. It's 3 distinct, unique whiskeys. All 3 of them are stellar, great price points. Availability on these is just getting better and better. I don't know, I feel like I should have had more faith in how good these were gonna be, but did not realize how good. So if you haven't tried these yet, immediate pickup. Next up was a huge surprise, and that's the Jefferson's Ocean's Tropics Aged in Humidity. Founder Trey Zoller's latest innovation and the newest addition to the Jefferson's family. Jefferson's Tropics is aged in the humidity of Singapore, which in theory allows the bourbon to interact with the wood and draw richer flavor from it. Bottled at 104 proof and retails for about $100. Gimmicky, Absolutely, but I will be honest here, a lot of what I review comes from your recommendations. I get a lot of messages, hey, you should review this, you should try this, you might be surprised. And that's what this one was. And I was very skeptical, but I bought it. And I haven't really been a big, huge fan of Jefferson's. I think a lot of their stuff isn't really worth the money. However, this one just brings a lot more of those richer flavors to the forefront. I feel like what you get in the description is what you get on the palate. It was a huge surprise for me. I love the sweetness of it. I love the proof point of it. Absolute home run from Jefferson's. Big surprise. Next up is a rye out of California called Corbin Cash. Now, why did this stand out? Well, it's made from an ultra rare, 100% California native Merced rye mash bill, aged in custom charred American white oak barrels for up to 6 years. Now, the flavors here are an amazing blend of chocolate, lemon zest, hazelnut, rye spice, and that Merced rye gives it kind of an unexplainable like funkiness that it has that is really hard to explain, but just kept me going back for more of this one. Now, this is a pick that we did, but the standard 6-year rye is about $100. It's all grain to glass, and unfortunately, I don't think these are available too much outside of California, but if you ever have a chance to come across it, don't pass it up. It's something different and something unique, and Corbin Cash is one of those distillers I think everybody needs to keep their eye on. Now, this bottle is one that I highly underestimated, and it's from Pinhook. Now, if you don't know much about Pinhook, Pinhook's Bourbon Vertical Series follows a group of about 1,350 MGP barrels as they age from 4 to 12 years to experience kind of the broad range of those flavors throughout their 9-year journey. Now, this is the 8-year bottle that just released recently. It's bottled at 114.6 proof, and it's about $90. Now, I haven't been a fan of a lot of the Pinhook releases, kind of standard MGP, some of the stuff's a little bit off profile, but to me they weren't always off profile in a good way. This one, however, is dark, it's fruity, it's delicious. I think this is a little bit more of an off profile MGP, but in the best way possible. It's like root beery, it's dark, it's brown sugary. It's absolutely delicious. This one is still available and hangs out. I mean, if you're gonna spend the money on some MGP, which is everywhere, you might as well get one that's off profile. This was a huge surprise for me, and I think it's worth the money. I think it's MGP at its finest. Next up is this 100% rice whiskey. That's right, rice. Since 1896, the name JT Mellick became synonymous with Louisiana rice and eventually crawfish. Then they began thinking, what if we could make a great spirit from their rice? Well, they did. It's one of the bottles this year that absolutely blew me away. So JT Mellick Rice Whiskey is harvested, distilled, and bottled all in Louisiana. They make a standard rice whiskey, and if you could find them, these cast strength single barrels that bring you flavors of vanilla, butterscotch, and you may not think it, but even some spice. Now, unfortunately, distribution is a little few and far between on these. However, Sealbox, Shared Pour, Bourbon Outfitter have all released single barrel picks of this stuff. Aged 4 to 5 years in New American Oak, 53-gallon barrels. Proofs range from about 118.2 to 123.9 proof, about $75. This is, again, one of those big surprise whiskeys. You think you're drinking a bourbon, but you're not. It's 100% rice whiskey. It's sweet. It has an incredible texture from that rice, and it's just flat out delicious. I would highly keep an eye out for these if they ever drop on any of those online places. Next up is this beautiful bottle, and I know this looks like a standard barrel bourbon bottle, but this is their 10th anniversary blended bourbon. I actually have this in my glass right now. The story behind this is basically 10 years ago, BattleCraft Spirits set out to blend whiskeys and blend them into something greater than the sum of their parts. I mean, that's what every blender wants to do. There have been countless blends that they have worked on, and when this bottle first got released, I took a chance on it. Barrel for me can be very hit and miss. Generally, when I recommend these, it's kind of a try before you buy situation because it just depends on your palate and what you're gonna like and dislike. Now, the 10th anniversary batch pays homage to all those 10 years. So some of the barrels that went into some of their most highly regarded batches, including batch 11 and batch 21, are all blended into this release. So it includes bourbons from 8 to 18 years old from Kentucky, Indiana, and Tennessee. Proof is about 112 and it retailed for about $85. This thing has everything. It's an absolute flavor monster. Not only did this make this list, but this might end up somewhere in my top 10 this year. We have to see how it ends up in a blind tasting, but it's got everything. Cinnamon, butterscotch, baking spices. The finish on this is ridiculously long. The finish just draws out this really heavy caramel coating type thing that goes on in your palate along with the spice. It's delicious. Now these did sell out online. I'm not sure how many more are available, if any at all, but if you do see this one, I assure you, grab it. Next up is Remus Highest Rye Bourbon. Now Remus Bourbon from Ross and Squibb Distillery, or MGP, whatever you want to call it, has been expanding its brands, and the Remus Highest Rye Straight Bourbon is the latest and now a permanent release. The Highest Rye Bourbon has a mash bill that contains 51% corn, 39% rye, and 10% malted barley. It is bottled at 109 proof and only about 55 bucks. This particular bottle has cherry, honey, gingerbread flavors. It all kind of hits you with the sweet, and then you get all that high rye spice that provides this long, lingering finish. It's balanced, it's delicious, and it also doesn't break the bank. Think about it, guys. Some folks are charging over $100 for 4 to 6 year MGP, mainly 21% rye. I thought this bottle, however, initially would carry a lot of those usual MGP flavors I'm used to, but this is a beast of a bourbon, and guess what? I see this sitting on shelves, and at that price, with this mash bill and this much flavor, it's a different take on MGP that you can afford to try. Easily one of my favorites this year and highly underrated. Next one is Penelope 9-Year Private Select. Distilled in Indiana and Kentucky, this batch is aged more than 9 years in charred new American oak barrels. Now it's technically a 4-grain with a blend of 3 bourbon mash bills comprised of corn, wheat, rye, and malted barley. It's bottled at 109 proof, and price for this one is only about 75 bucks. You know, when I first saw this, I was like, all right, Penelope is starting to flex that access to some more of those premium barrels at Ross and Squibb, and I'm here for it. This is a super sweet, crushable bottle of bourbon. It balances caramel, toasted marshmallow, honey, some great spices. Even though it's more MGP, this one stands out with that 4-grain blend. It's non-chill filtered, so it has great flavor. A 9-year MGP blend for under 80 bucks and available. Huge surprise, and glad I got one. Number 9 on the list. I think this is number 9, right? Yeah. Next up is Green River Wheated Bourbon. Now, Green River was recently acquired by Barton Bourbon Company. Green River's distribution was expanded to 25 states this year. So to celebrate, Green River Wheated Bourbon was released. Now, it's bottled at 90 proof with a mash bill of 70% corn, 21% wheat, and 9% 6-row barley. Now, the price for this, only 35 bucks. Now, I really like the original Green River bourbon, the rye bourbon, when it was released, but I think the wheated bourbon is even better. This was a surprise because generally I don't gravitate towards wheaters, but this one brought notes of sweet caramel, vanilla, hint of fresh fruit, and some wheatiness, obviously, and you get a little bit of that honey character, I think, that I usually get in wheaters, at least for me. Now, for $35, I really enjoy this one. It's widely available, it's super affordable, it's aged at least 4 years, and come on, it's 35 bucks. And lastly is a bottle I just reviewed. I just posted a video for this one this week, and that's the Little Book Chapter 7 in retrospect. A blend of 4, 5, 9, 10, 17, and 18-year-old whiskeys that includes bourbons, ryes, and even a straight malt finish in applewood smoked barrels. It's bottled at 118.1 proof and retails for about 150 bucks. So like I said in the review, I've been pretty disappointed with Little Book over the recent years. I was a huge fan of Little Book Chapter 1 because it was just something really different. Chapter 2 I kind of liked too, and Chapter 3 was an absolute home run. But ever since then, their batches have been pretty hit and miss. High price points, really young whiskey, a little bit more of an experimental type of release from Jim Beam. However, this takes some of those components from each of those previous chapters, blends it into Chapter 7, and turn something on paper that I thought could not work into something that absolutely works. Even at 118 proof, this drinks very delicately. It's got a lot of flavor, a lot of nuance to it. Like I said in the review, this is a bottle that needs to be kind of savored on its own. You could really kind of unpack a lot of different flavors from here. I think everyone's palate will be a little bit different, picking some stuff up in this bottle. I mean, some people may not like it, some people may love it. I happen to love it. It was a huge surprise for me just because Little Book has been so off the radar for me the last several years. So Little Book Chapter 7 in retrospect to end the list. Absolutely love this release, and I can't wait to see how it tastes as it gets further down the bottle. All right, guys, here they are, my surprise whiskeys for 2023. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the subscribe button below. Please hit the like button. And if you haven't yet, find me on Instagram. Let me know down in the comments your top surprise whiskeys for the year. And if you can't find some of these, a lot of these will be a lot easier to find. So if you got anything out of this video, at least I, kind of bolstered your shopping list a little bit. So with that said, like I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share it with. See you next time right here on The Mash and Drum.